सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावदिभ्या निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनः उरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावत् भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां बाहुद्वन्द्वेन रत्नोज्ज्वलवलय भृता शोणपाणिप्रवाळेनोपाता वेणुनाळी प्रसृतनखमयूखाङ्गुली सङ्गशारा कृत्वा वक्त्रारविन्दे सुमधुरविकसद् रागमुद्भाव्य मानैः शब्दब्रह्मामृतैः त्वं शिशिरितभुवनैः सिञ्च मे कर्णवीथि
Gurupavanapure Hantabhagyam Jananam. Namaskaram to all the Astikas. Gajendra Moksha Vrittantam is very dear to the hearts of great Acharyas as well as little children. So if there is one particular charitram in our Puranas that attracts people of all ages, it is Gajendra Moksha Vrittantam. In this Gajendra Moksha Vrittantam, Bhaṭṭatiri began this particular Dashakam saying, Indradyumnaha Pandyakhandadirajas Tvadbhaktatma Chandanadrau Kadachit Tvat Sevaya Magnadhihi Aluloke Naiva Agastyam Praptamatithya Kamam. To that Agastya Maharshi, who was very desirous of receiving the Atithi Satkara, he didn't receive because Indradyumna, the Pandya Raja, was so involved in your worship, O Krishna. Hey Krishna, hey Vasudeva, hey Guruvayurappa, hey Narayana, hey Purushottama. The king was so very much involved in your upasana that he did not notice Agastya's arrival. But Agastya cursed that he should be a Nagendra. Naga here doesn't mean snake, it means elephant. Hastindra, Nagendra. On the other hand, there was a Gandharva called Hu. Due to the shapam given by a rishi called Devala, Devalasyapi shapat. So he became a Jagrahainam. So he became a crocodile that would pull animals with its strong jaws. So this crocodile was trying to pull the feet, one of the limbs of the elephant. That is when, what is the elephant planning to do? This is where this episode comes. Tvatsevaya vaibhavad durnirodham yudhyantam tam vatsaranam sahasram prapte kale tvatpadaikagra siddhyai nakrakrantam hastivaryam yadhastvam tam hastivaryam yudhyantam. That particular elephant, the Gajendra, was fighting. Dur nirodham vatsaranam sahasram. It was fighting for over 1,000 years. Here is where we need to understand. I'm sure your children or grandchildren will ask, oh, an elephant, can it live for 1,000 years? And how did it fight for 1,000 years? Well, we could give answers because in Treta Yuga and Krita Yuga, elephants used to live for 1,000 years, unlike how they live for like 150 years today. All this we can say. But remember, in Brahma Srishti, immaterial of which yuga it is, the body is going to remain the same. See, this material body, this Pancha Bhautika Shariram, which is a Prakrita Shariram, will remain quite the same across ages. Today we complain of diabetes, cholesterol, vertigo, so on and so forth. How sure are we that our ancestors never had it? There were premature deaths, there were ailments, there were diseases. So people did live. Maybe they didn't give the names that we call it today. We call it by different names, acronyms, so on and so forth. So that said, when this body, Prakrita Sharira, is the same, it cannot live for 100 years in this yuga, 1000 years in the next yuga, 2000 years in the next yuga. It doesn't go that way because Vedam says, for example, let's take human. Shatamanam bhavati shatayuf purushaha shatendriyaha. So Vedam is very clear. This Purusha Shariram, this human body, whether it be of a man or a woman, it will live for 100 years. Some due to their yoga abhyasa, because full control over their emotions, anger, lust, especially food. So their food habits will be so very well hygienic, very well routine. So such people may live through their yoga abhyasa for 120, 130, 140 years. But it is in and around that 100 years benchmark. It cannot go up till 10,000 years, 20,000 years for the human sharira. Same is the case with an elephant. So, but here Bhaṭṭatiri says, Durnirodham Vatsaranam Sahasram. But this elephant fought for 1,000 years. How do we understand? This is where, let's take another example of Purusha Suktam. Purusha Suktam is a Veda Bhagam. Interestingly, that comes in Rig Vedam, Krishna Yajur Vedam, Shukla Yajur Vedam, Sama Vedam and Atharva Vedam, where the rishis speak high about Purusha. But who is this Purusha? Given the sources that we have, Avyayaha Purushaha Sakshi, we get to know from the commentaries. There are Sayanacharya, Bhattabhaskara, there is Uvatacharya, Mahidharacharya, Rangaramanuja, that this is a stuti that is addressing Śrīman Nārāyaṇa. So how does this Purusha look? This is where it begins. Sahasra Shirshav Purushaha. Shiras, head. There are 1,000 heads. Now you'll have to imagine a person with a body with 1,000 heads. Sahasrakshaha, 1,000 eyes. Now comes the question. 1,000 heads. Shouldn't there be 2,000 eyes? Then how do you say 1,000 eyes? So here the commentators have said Sahasra here means Anantavachi. So, infinite. You can't count, which means he's there everywhere. He's looking at you. He's seeing you. He's observing you. That is the whole meaning of Sahasra. And it doesn't mean to say you'll have to start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot even count because that is not the way the Vedas perceive. It's an illustration. It's an illustration to say that Bhagavan is looking at you. He's always going to bless you. So Sahasra there means Anantavachi. So what we have to do is, we'll have to just say that the elephant tried to excuse itself, release itself from the jaws of the crocodile and fought for a long time. That long time could be seconds, could be minutes, could be hours, could be days. So it doesn't necessarily translate into 1,000 years, because if you say you will have to construe 1,000 as 1,000 years, then I'm sure the children will start disbelieving our granthas. That's not our objective. So, Durnirodham Vatsaranam Sahasram, the elephant tried fighting the crocodile for a very long time. Vaibhavat, on account of your glory, Tvatsevayaha, because this elephant in its previous janma as the Pandya Raja called Indradyumna was engaged in your Upasana Krishna, Tvatsevayaha, Kale Prapti, when the opportune moment, Kale Prapti, when the right time, right kalam came, Tvatpadaika Grisiddhai, Tvatpadaika Ekagra Siddhai, Ekagra Tvatpadaika Grisiddhai, which means that focus was only on your lotus feet, Ekagra Chittam, single pointed devotion. See, when Hanuman looks at Sita in Ashoka Vatika below Shimshupa Vriksham, he says, Ekastha Hridayanunam Rameva Anupashyati. It seems presumably she is looking into a direction where Rama will be seated. Ekastha Hridayanunam. One pointed devotion. She did not, look left, right. She did not say, okay, let me think for Rama for some time. If nothing works, let's see what's the solution. No. Ekastha Hridayanunam Rameva Anupashyati. Similarly, Tvatpadaika Grisiddhai. So the only single pointed devotion was towards your lotus feet. Hey Bhagavan. Tvam Vyadhaha Nakra Krantam. So thereby, who gave the thought to the elephant to think about Bhagavan? Bhagavan. Tvam vyadhaha nakrakrante. So now comes the question. How does anybody remember their previous birth? Let's get to something as simple and realistic as possible. If I ask you all a question, what did you have for your breakfast yesterday? Some of you may remember, some of you may say, I don't know, idli, dosa, vada, poha, maybe jalebi. I don't know what you will say. But if I ask this simple question, what did you have for your breakfast yesterday? You'll have doubts. I ask you, what did you have for your breakfast 8 days back? I'm sure that numbers will reduce where people will say, I'll remember. What did you have for your breakfast last year? I'm sure people will be confused. They won't even remember. So when we don't remember as simple as what we had yesterday, previous week, 1 month before, how do I remember my previous birth? Comes the question. This is where Vishnu Purana talks about one category of people, very unique category of people called Jatismaraha. These Jatismaras are people who are very rare, one in maybe a lakh, who can remember their previous janma. Have there been instances like this? One such that we see in our Purana is that of an elephant. There is another example in Jadabharata Charitram. We have Rishabhanatha, whom we dealt, Kutaka Chaletvam said Bhaṭṭatiri. So we discussed about Kurgu, Kodagu, Shayuvratam, Ku, Gomriga Kakacharyam, he said. So when we discussed Rishabhanatha, Rishabhanatha had a son called Bharata. This Bharata is the one who relinquishes his body, thinking of the deer. He becomes the deer. While being the deer, he thinks of his previous birth. He then is born into a kulam that does Vedadhyanam, but being very aloof and isolated, people treat him to be a Jadavastu, call him Jada. Since he was Bharata 2 Janmas before, he is called Jada Bharata, and he remembers everything of the past. So that is one example. This elephant is an exact typical example of remembering the previous Janma. So such people are called Jatismaraha. So this Jatismara, Tvam Vyadhaha Nakrakrantam. So this elephant was able to remember its previous Janma. What was the previous Janma? As that of a king called Indradyumna of Pandya Raja. What is the advantage of being a human? You will have the wisdom to think, you will have the intelligence to grasp the content of Vedas, and then probably if you are interested, you can teach others back. All this is there. So the king had a routine, upasana, of doing it to Bhagavan and doing a stuti to Bhagavan. But now this is an elephant. That Jivatma is now in an elephant's body. You can't do all these VFX where the elephant is doing the Shloka. So how do we do it? Remember, communication need not have to be always oral. I don't have to keep on telling it. I can do it through my body language. I can do it internally. But Shuka Brahmam, who gave us Bhagavatam, who answered the questions of Parikshit Maharaj, was able to see within the mind of the elephant, Gajendra, as to what stuti he was doing, and he has coded that in the form of shlokas. So when we say Tvam Yadhaha Nakrakrantam, Bhagavan made the elephant by thinking of its previous birth, by repeating that prayer, that particular stotra, and thereby helping it defeat the crocodile, which means this is a Jatismara who was able to remember, and Shuka Brahman was able to record the verses as is. So this is called Gajendra Stuti. The Gajendra is doing stuti of Bhagavan. In fact, there's another Divyadesham in the state of Tamil Nadu, in the beautiful city of Kanchipuram, where there is another Sthala Puranam related to the elephant. So it's called as Gajendra Raksha Tvaritam Bhavantam Grakyai Rivaham Vishayai Vikrishtaha Apara Vijnana Dayanubhavam Aptam Sadam Ashtabhujam Prapadye. So when we discuss Bhagavan there, again we say Gajendra Raksha Tvaritam Bhavantam. But remember, this particular incident, as per Srimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam, is said to have happened by the banks of river Tamraparani. Tamraparani is the river that originates from the Western Ghats, very close to Agasthyar Kudam, which is a tall hill. And from there it flows across the Tirunelveli region and then goes into the Bay of Bengal. So this stretch is very important, this Tamraparani river stretch. And above that we will have another river called Vaigai or Kritamala. When we discuss Matsyavataram, Kritamala will come into picture. Satyavrata is the Dramila Raja who takes that fish. So between Vaigai the river Vaigai called Kritamala that flows between Madurai, and Tamraparani, which is the river that flows between Tirunelveli, was a very thriving civilization where they are finding more evidences like the Indus Valley civilization, like how we have Indus Valley civilization between Saraswati and the Sindhu river spanning between Bharatadesham and Pakistan. Here this comes in the state of Tamil Nadu. So one in the south, one far northwest. These were two civilizations from where we find a lot of evidences. So this is the place where it is believed that Gajendra Moksha Vrittantam happened, called Attala Nallur. But what stuti did the elephant do? Did Bhagavan listen to it? How did he come? When did he come? How did he rescue the elephant? All those details in the next episode.
कल्याणरूपाय कलौ जनानां कल्याणदात्रे करुणासुधाब्दे कंवादिदिव्यायुधसत्कराय वातालयाधीश नमो नमस्ते। नारायण 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 नारायण